Well, first off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight, listening to a bunch of politicians talk about the same old stuff. I'm Marcus Halliday, BC's Gallagher Party candidate for Abbotsford-Mission, and one of my primary goals is to bring values of truth, honour and justice into legislature. Now, a lot of the candidates up here have pre-written scripts that they'll be reading right off. I won't be. What I say tonight will come from my heart. A bit on the credentials. I've been a flight sergeant and instructor with the Air Cadet program for nearly 6 years. I've sat on the Mission Abbotsford Transit Committee with Simon Gibson, and I now work as a manager at Walmart. I've also volunteered with the Salvation Army and other charitable organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. We have Wendy Bales, Independent.
Hi, thanks for coming out. I always like to see all the people that are concerned with their community. I've been in this riding for 38 years. I've done 2 terms of local government, and my main concern is always to consult with the people and be as transparent as possible, as well as standing up for the people and making sure their voice is heard. So I would say that I do fairly well at that, and I've been quite involved in community issues for probably about 2 decades. So there's a bio outside, and you can look at my website for more information. So hope you enjoy the evening.
Roman Boychuk, Independent.
Thank you for inviting me. My beginnings, I was born in the Salvation Army Hospital in Vancouver. I lived at 425 East Hastings Street, 425 Heatley Avenue, a half a block off of Hastings Street for the first 10 months of my life. Later I returned to Vancouver as a teenager. I lived in the West End for 2 years right near Stanley Park. One of my first jobs was East Thurlow Island in a logging camp, and I was a flunky and a boat cook. And the reason I'm seeking office as an independent candidate, because I believe we have a horse and buggy political system in the space age. Our political system has not changed much in the last 150 years, except to consolidate power in the leader's office. Our MLAs have been emasculated. That is not democracy, that is dictatorships. Political parties divide people. I believe we need to unite the people of this great province of British Columbia to work together to meet the needs of all the people in this province, not just the mega corporations. Some of us are saying that we need to find only the brightest to run for MLAs. I say we need to find people with the greatest honesty and integrity to run, not those interested in the largest pensions. Integrity and commitment to democracy is now the greatest need and has been the greatest lack. I would point out that I'm running as an independent candidate, and if elected, I would only be 1 out of 85. I will not be able to seriously affect policy. I'm not here to make promises that I cannot keep, nor to imply that I have the answers to all issues. If elected, my constituents will make known to me the most serious concerns, and I will work on those issues, not what I perceive to be the most important. Thank you.
Next we have Eric Flavelle, Green Party.
Thank you, Sean. Evening, folks. Thank you for coming tonight. The Green Party tries to look at everything through the lens of what we call the triple bottom line. Any problem, any issue, anything we ought to do has got to make economic sense. It's also got to make social sense, and it's also got to make environmental sense. It doesn't work putting in a gravel mine if it's going to wipe out your local social structure. It doesn't work putting in clear-cut logging if it destroys our environment. Everything requires a triple bottom line. Most of the problems that I see that are most divisive amongst us are due to the way I think that our democracy is set up. So we've got a bunch of guys over Victoria that have got the faintest clue of what's going on in North Mission, or in North Hudson Valley, or in Sumas Mountain. We're too remote with our centralized government. It would help us very, very much if we empowered far more our local councils and gave them both the authority and the funding to run our communities. Our sister city, Oyama's sister city, Mission sister city in Japan, been there. When I went to Abbotsford sister city in Japan, Fukagawa, city council runs the hospitals. City council runs the schools. That's the kind of local authority that we need to really make our democracy strong. As the night goes by, I'm going to talk more about, I hope to talk more about poverty and mental health, about how our hospital system is falling apart because you and I, if you're my age, didn't have enough kids to finance it. And there's this little elephant in the room called global warming or climate change. And people are trying to burn LNG and dig out more coal and sell more oil, and we're going to correct ourselves doing that. Thank you.
Great Rye, NDP.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you to the Chamber, and thanks for all of you to come up here. Thank you very much. It's good to see in our province that democracy is alive and well. We need to have more citizens like you and more. And thank you for all the other candidates for coming. It's good to see everyone here. I'm proud to be running as part of the NDP team in Abbotsford-Mission. Our party will focus on your family and build a better BC. My wife is a teacher, and I've got 2 sons and 1 daughter. I'm a chartered accountant by profession and work for the Ministry of Finance. I've served as a trustee for over 6 years, or over 5 years, from 2008. I also serve on many volunteer organizations, including Canuck Place Children's Hospice, which is being built near the Abbotsford Hospital. I want to talk to you about a couple of things in this election, what it means to you. First, about the healthcare. We are all concerned about healthcare. We are concerned about the wait list, the access to doctors, the cost of prescriptions. We are concerned. Education, being a school trustee, I've seen for 10 years the erosion of school resources, the lack of specialty teachers, drama teachers, music teachers, counselors, and teachers struggling with class compositions. We must make British Columbia work through skills training and through high schools and beyond, from high schools and beyond. Why is it only during an election that the Liberals talk about job skills and skills training? What have they done for the last 5 years? Surely we can do better. We need a change. Being a chartered accountant, I can tell you that my message is very simple. Fiscal, social, and environmental responsibility. I'm a good listener, and with your support and help, I would offer a respectable, positive, hardworking, and collaborative approach to governance. So, on May 14th, thank you.
Brian Gibson, Liberal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're my heroes coming out tonight. Appreciate you being here. It's a warm, beautiful evening in Mission. I am Simon Gibson, your BC Liberal Party candidate. It's a pleasure for me to be here tonight. I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been re-elected 11 times to a municipal council across the river. I've spent an inordinate amount of time here in the last number of months as I get to fully know the Mission community. Mayor Ted Adams said to me, every time I turn around, you're here. Oh, I have to be. This is an important component of the riding. About 50% of the population is here. This is my home. I live in the riding. I've lived in the riding for 12 years. I've lived in the community since 1976. My wife Joy is here, my cheerleader here. Thank you, Joy. Joy just retired as a school teacher in the Abbotsford school system, where she taught the entire career. I teach at the School of Business at the University of Fraser Valley, and one of the things I've learned in teaching marketing is you over-deliver and under-promise. And my commitment to you is I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to work hard for you. And you know what, sometimes we won't agree, but I want to be your servant, I want to be your representative in Victoria. Abbotsford-Mission is a fabulous area. It's beautiful, we're hardworking, there's so much potential and excitement here, I can feel it already. And I'm looking forward to serving you, and I'll promise to do a good job, be very connected with you, communicate with you, and it will be an honor indeed to represent you and serve you in Victoria. Thanks so much.
Stall, Conservatives.
Hi everyone, my bio's been in the paper a few times, so I'll skip that, and just to get to some meat and potatoes of some issues. My name is Don Stahl, and I'm the Conservative candidate for this riding. And why, you may be asking, should you vote for the BC Conservatives? 2 reasons. One, the garbage incinerator. The BC Conservatives are the only party that publicly has come out and said that we will kill the garbage burner. We will not allow it to be built anywhere in the Fraser Valley or the Lower Mainland. The BC Liberals are allowing Metro Vancouver to go ahead with its plans to build a garbage incinerator in the Fraser Valley. We live in a fragile airship, and with the health of our children at stake, why should we even leave the door open to the chance of a garbage incinerator being built in the valley by allowing Metro Vancouver to continue with its waste energy planning phase? The people of the Fraser Valley fought long and hard to keep SE2 out of the area just to see a garbage incinerator built next to Mission. Another reason, the carbon tax. BC Conservatives will phase out and get rid of the BC Liberal carbon tax over the next 4 years. BC is the only jurisdiction in North America that has a carbon tax. The carbon tax is a tax on everything. It makes your family's food and clothing more expensive, and it also makes it more expensive for families to heat their homes, get to work, and drive their kids to school. The carbon tax also makes doing business in BC more expensive, and it makes it harder for our small business to be competitive. For example, in 2010, the BC Grain Producers Association found that the average farm spends an average of $4,300 a year on the carbon tax. They concluded the carbon tax put provincial farmers at a serious disadvantage to competitors in other jurisdictions. Thank you.
So we'll move into the questions now. We have prepared questions. It's the exact same questions were asked at the first group. So we will continue on with this. You have 1 minute. And Wendy, you were first up in your question, and the question to all candidates, and I'll repeat this question if it's needed as well. What are the key challenges facing Mission, and what would your plan be in addressing these concerns for the people of Mission?
Long-term water affordability and infrastructure for the water, that's been on the agenda for a long time, but I think we haven't had a really long-term big picture of what we really need and how much we'll need in the long term as far as quantity and how to deliver it, basically. Another one is hospital. I've been involved with that one for quite a few years. I watched the dismantling of the hospital. So I know that it hasn't been as good as it was even a decade ago. Our populations are growing, so we really need to deal with the hospital issue.
Thank you. Roman?
As I have already said in my opening statement, I would point out that I am running as an independent candidate, and if elected, I would only be 1 out of 85. I will not be able to seriously affect policy. I'm not here to make promises that I cannot keep, nor to imply that I have all the answers to all the issues.
Thank you. Eric?
I've been attending for some time now Mission council meetings, and I come away with big issues being grow-ups, the terrible issue, gravel mining, ecotourism, tourism. How do we develop tourism? We've got so many jobs, so many people in Mission are having to drive outside Mission for their jobs. We need to build our economy in here, and tourism and ecotourism is one way to do that. I'm looking forward to the waterfront development. There's a huge issue here, and the downtown revitalization. And transportation is a big issue. I think we'll talk more about that as time goes by. I see those as being the biggest issues here.
Reed?
Thank you. To me, a vibrant downtown core is very important because that's where all the businesses, the small businesses, which are the backbone of a society, are there, and they drive our economy. The rural communities, I've been up to Lake Arrock, I've been up to Common Creek, I've been up to Simus Mountain. They have issues. They have issues with economic development. So we should be, the economic development that's happening there should be in consultation with those communities and with environmental concerns. Another one that I've noticed quite a bit is the raw logs that as I've been door knocking, people are telling me that the raw logs are being exported outside of our community, while there are so many mills out here which, if they get the raw logs here, will provide so many jobs, which will be better for our economy. So those are some of the issues and more issues to keep on coming.
I'm very optimistic about Mission, and the reason I'm optimistic is as I get to know the people here, there's a tremendous vibrancy, there's a tremendous optimism here. The question is, how do we empower that? How do we build from that? The economic possibilities here are tremendous. The opening up of the forest, the interpretive forest, the road is going to be proposed, tremendously exciting. The waterfront, the opportunities for commerce, the heritage potential for First Avenue. There's so much excitement and energy here, and it's just, I think we're just on the edge of it. And I'm looking forward to being your MLA, to work with you, to coordinate, to bring that energy so that we can turn Mission into one of the more exciting, one of the most exciting communities in British Columbia for tourism, for commerce, and for all those kind of things. It's an exciting time for our community. Thank you.
I think a couple of local issues here, talking to people who live here. One is the hospital. It's great to have a fully functioning hospital in Abbotsford, but there are some serious concerns with your local hospital here, like having a fully serviceable ER and maternity ward. And I think another issue is the garbage burner. If that garbage incinerator goes through and is built anywhere from Vancouver to Hope, we're going to be having a prevailing winds coming off the ocean, and burning 2 million people's worth of garbage every week is going to end up in the Fraser Valley here, especially in the summertime when we have the heat inversions. That pollution is going to be close to the ground. We don't need more kids with asthma or our seniors having more difficulty breathing problems. So those are two issues that I see that are key for this Friday. Thank you.
Some of the most important issues that I've seen speaking with people in the Mission riding here, transit, healthcare, and most importantly, small business. Small business in Mission has an opportunity to thrive because there is very little in the way of corporate competition, but small business isn't thriving. I intend to find out why, and I intend to make sure it does thrive. Because there's one important thing. I can go to McDonald's in Abbotsford. I can go to McDonald's in Hong Kong. I will get the same burger. I go to Cleopatra's Donair down the road from here. I will get a donair that I can only get in one place. On the note of transit, I'd like to expand the West Coast Express system. I'd like to make it more efficient, run extra trains, run trains at times that make sense so that there's two ways between here and Vancouver, and I'd also like to run it out to Chilliwack. Thank you.
Question number 2. Many are concerned about the serious health and safety risks that former drug operations such as marijuana grow-ops and drug labs pose to the public. This includes mold, chemicals thrown in the backyard, electrical fires, and intrusions by criminals looking for drugs, even if the property is no longer being used for drug production. Realtors and many others feel that it's important for the public to be informed if a property they could be moving into was identified as a drug operation. Unfortunately, there is no consistency across the province on how municipalities make this information available, nor is there a provincial standard of remediation for drug operations. The question is, and we start with Roman. Sorry, Roman, what are you and your party?
I'm not a party.
Yeah. What are you prepared to do to resolve the issues of the standardized reporting and remediation of former drug operations?
That's an easy one. I would build a 3-story building. I would legalize marijuana, cocaine, and horse dung. And I would not tax it. And the second floor would be a detox. And you want to go up a little higher, the third floor would be rehab. I trained with the U.S. Marine. I have the resolve to get the job done. Thank you.
Aaron.
Candidates, please stand up. Gentlemen, thank you.
I've been over on police ride-alongs when we've gone into grow-ups, and for 7 years I haven't missed an Abbotsford City Council meeting, and it's been so many grow-ups come before council. And I've been trying to talk with Darcy Riddicoff of the Real Estate Board about what it is that the realtors really need. And we're coming away with the problem is huge. The official Green Party position is that we should decriminalize and then regulate and tax marijuana. But there's huge issues associated with that, such as so much of our marijuana is exported to the States because our punishment here is so much less for growing marijuana. So we need a commission. We need to do something huge. It's a big, big, big deal. There's no easy answers to this one at all.
Thank you. The NDP wants to support crime prevention and restorative justice, initiatives to help prevent houses being turned into drug operations. I, as your MLA, it looks like it's very likely that the NDP will form the government. So I, as your MLA, will be part of the caucus and bring all these issues to the table, and along with the municipalities and other forms of government, we will find a solution to this.
Thank you, Sean. The concern, I think, is fairly profound, because what's happening is the grow-ops are creating a real estate crisis in many communities, including Mission, because financial institutions such as banks and credit unions in many cases are declining to provide financing for homes that have been grow-ups. So what happens to those homes? Now, for example, in Mission, there's over 500 legal residential grow-ups. Now, you're hearing the truth that next year, March, the federal government is proposing to phase out residential grow-ups, commercial grow-ups. However, the problem is that they'll probably be grandfathered. So the issue is we need a province-wide approach to remediation of these homes. It's got to probably be built into the building code. It's got to be systematic, province-wide. Thank you.
I would support a standardized legally required reporting system. That if a fire department, police agency, or bylaw becomes aware that a house has or had a grow-up in it, that it must be reported. Starting with some kind of a big database online where anybody can search it, and also make it a law that the real estate agent has to provide legal written notice to anybody coming to see the home that it was a grow-up. And just for the record, I do not support legalizing drugs, legalizing marijuana. The druggies say that when they got rid of prohibition in the States, it got rid of the gangs. It did not. There is way more gang violence in the States right now, and alcohol has been legal. So I support a crackdown on any kind of drugs. Thank you.
Marcus?
I think I understand why this question came before us. I think one of the primary things is an honest real estate agent will tell people this home had a grow up in it, if they know that it had one. Then you will have the dishonest real estate agent who will, no, there's no grow up there, no, I have no idea. No, they were growing cucumbers in the basement. Yes, there has to be standardized reporting. We have consumer protection. We have a website where you can look up cars and see if they've been in an accident. The same should apply to homes, and grow-ups are one of those things. Thank you.
Wendy, and we have one rebuttal.
Prohibition is definitely not working. I consult with the RCMP and they can't keep up. The most they can do is 1 or 2 a month in general, and I believe that if we did decriminalize it and tax it, then we could put it into industrial areas or outside, and it wouldn't affect the homes as much. So if we did tax it, we could focus some of that money on detox or harder drugs and use it for benefit instead of draining resources away from the RCMP.
And the rebuttal is from John.
I would just ask you, do you want your kids to smoke marijuana or your grandkids? Kids that smoke pot, they're not very motivated. Just for the record, BC Conservatives, we're going to put another $700 million into the justice system over the next 4 years. And also for the record, it was the BC Liberals that over the last 12 years closed 24 courthouses in 9 persons, and that caused the current crisis in the legal system. Thanks.
The next question, if there's no more rebuttals, the next question, and we'll start with Eric. With regard to new taxes, tax shifts, and other forms of tax adjustments, would you commit to a full and open consultative process? If so, what do you envision that process would look like, and who do you see as stakeholders within that process?
The Green Party's official position on taxes is that we shouldn't ought to tax good behavior. So if somebody's making money, that's a bad thing to tax. If somebody's polluting, that's a good thing to tax. If somebody's wasting, that's a good thing to tax. So to respond to your question exactly as phrased, no. Let's completely rethink how we do taxes so that we encourage good behaviors and we penalize bad behavior. And have people pay the true cost of their behaviors when they do pollute things so that we don't end up having to pay to do cleanups. And we need a complete rebuild on our tax system. Totally simplify it, totally different. Agree?
The thing is, we do have a tax system, and we have to work with that right now. And to change it right now will be difficult. But what the NDP is saying in its platform, that we've laid out where we'll be raising the taxes. It won't be raised on everybody. It's 98% of the people will have no actual raise in taxes. And that's what we have laid out in our platform. So the other places we're going to raise taxes is 4 of them, and those are in high corporate earners, which is going to be from 11 to 12%. For people earning 150,000, we're going to raise a little bit of tax, and a little bit more tax on oil and gas companies in the venting area, and of course on the big bank tax at 3%. So those are the taxes that the NDP has already said we will raise. Our platform has been costed. It is there for everybody to see. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As most of you know, the personal tax in this province, the tax level for those earning under $120,000 a year is the lowest in Canada. And we're pretty proud of that as a government, as a party, if I'm allowed to be elected to serve you. Taxes are debilitating. Nobody in this room has said, you know what, I think I can handle paying a little more tax right about now. There's a huge resistance to taxes. I serve on a city council, and most of the correspondence I receive is, let's keep the taxes down. So a BC Liberal government, that's the commitment. That's the commitment. And it will reverberate around the province as election nears on May 14th. Thank you very much.
Yes, I would be interested in or open to having other stakeholders come to the table and we look at different taxes, and I can see that being different levels of government, the cities, city governments, business, private business agencies, and just everyday people. And just again, for the record, if you look strictly at the personal provincial income tax, yes, we may be the lowest in Canada, but anytime the government takes money out of your pocket, that's a tax. So if you look at all the Liberal increases in MSP premiums, ICBC premiums, increase in hydro rates, the carbon tax, you are the most heavily taxed person of anybody in any province west of Quebec. Thank you.
I didn't quite catch the question. Could you please repeat? Thank you.
Sure. With regard to new taxes, tax shifts, and other forms of tax adjustments, would you commit to a full and open consultative process? If so, what do you envision that process would look like, and who do you see as stakeholders within the process?
Yes, would be the short and simple answer. Stakeholders would be the people, and I think one of the most important things right now is the taxes keep going up, but when we look at it, our lifestyle isn't getting that much better. We aren't getting anything back for the tax. I think before a government proposes increasing the tax, they have to trim their own fat, trim their own mega pension plans, and actually look at what the rest of us are making. Thank you.
I definitely be in favor of a review of all taxing and basically right now we're all subsidizing oil and gas and energy to about the tune of $800 each a year. So if we look at taxing and reformulate that, maybe we can do a lot more with conservation and conserving energy with home building and actually grow our economy on renewables, but also save money for the people instead of high energy bills.
Tax is a tax, or whatever name you want to call it. It's a burden for the people. The lawyers love it.
Now we'll move into what we call our speed questions. The speed questions are designed to be answered with a yes or no response only. Question number 1, and we start with Preet. Will you or your party commit to supporting the vision and proposal that the District of Mission has to realign the highway designation from First Avenue to North Railway Avenue? Preet.
It's not a simple, it's not a simple yes or no answer. The province does not have the money. We have been broke for a little while. The deficits are very high. So it would be irresponsible of me to answer it in a yes or no answer. But yes, we will look into it. Correct.
Let me be clear. The question is, would you support the vision and proposal that the District of Mission has to realign the highway designation from First Avenue to North Railway Avenue? And Simon.
Absolutely, yes, subject to a full traffic study that's approved by the province and the Council of Mission.
John?
Considering anybody else has answered yes or no, I'm definitely open to looking at that, yes.
Wendy? Marcus?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Roman?
I'd move the bulldozer in tomorrow and start building that bypass.
Eric?
I love it. I'm not so sure about the Green Party, but I think it's great. Even better though is to run it to the, in 1972 when they built the Mission Bridge, they put an allowance for a bypass, and you just have to extend it by 630 meters, and it'll run right over to State Lake Street. So you can bypass the whole place completely and utterly.
That'd be a yes. The next question, yes or no, please, thank you. We'll start with Simon. Will you and your party commit to supporting the road improvement program necessary for the establishment of a Tim Hortons children's camp at Pine Lake?
100% yes.
John?
100% yes, and also cleaning up that lawless valley. There's a lot of crime out there that needs to be cleaned up too.
Marcus?
Funds, yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Eric?
Love it, and it opens the whole place up for tourism too.
And that's a yes as well. Preet?
A great project. Yes.
Thank you. The last of the yes or no questions, and we start with Dawn. Do you support the higher corporate tax rate change from 10 to 11%?
Yes.
Marcus?
This is the only time I'm tempted to go outside the yes or no boundaries, but I'm going to stick with the yes.
Wendy?
Yes, but with a review of possibly more or less.
Roman?
Yes.
Eric?
No. It's got to fit in the whole package. We need to review the whole package.
Creed.
Well, it's a yes and no because we committed to go to 12%.
And Simon.
Not surprisingly, yes.
Fair enough, thank you. Motion carried.
51% said we do it.
Our next question, we'll move along. And Marcus will be the first to answer this question. Fraser Valley Realtors wrote to the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure last year to ask for further improvements in transportation infrastructure and transit service to meet the needs of the growing communities south of the Fraser. The question is, what are you prepared to do to address the immediate transportation infrastructure and service needs in the community? Mark.
Yes, we need better transit out here. As a transit user myself, and also having sat on the Mission Abbotsford Transit Committee, there is a need for transit. We can't increase carbon taxes or get people out of their cars without offering them a viable alternative. It took me about 20 minutes of walking and a 45-minute ride on 2 buses to get here today. And that's just from across the river. Our party will focus on the West Coast Express Rail and other rail alternatives because in a study done a few years ago in Europe, rail is cheaper than bus service. Why? Because you have one rail car towing many, many cars in comparison to one driver driving one bus. Thank you.
Wendy.
We need more community-friendly hubs for buses as well as better rail services, more regular rail service with the West Coast and possibly light rail on the south side of the Fraser as well.
Roman?
Whatever is physically possible and desirable must be made financially possible. I'll move the bulldozer in.
Here. We need a really good regional transit study, plan. And things like it's so difficult to get from Mission to Maple Ridge, we need increased service from Mission over to Abbotsford. The West Coast Express, that's up for renegotiation. Our track committee saw that in 2015. So let's try and make the West Coast Express far more of an all-day commuter train, someplace that shift workers can use, and shoppers can use, and rather than just the 5 trains in the morning and the 5 trains at night. And let's look at what we can do with transportation on the river too. It's already transporting gravel, and it's also, I've heard a wonderful project the other day for transporting automobiles from Addis Valley up the river to offload them here in Mission and put them on trains here. That sounds like a heck of a game.
Thank you again for the question. The NDP brought in the West Coast Express here, and it's been turned out to be really good. It's really amazing. So what we are committing is that, of course, when these comes out, we will be looking at more services if it's at all possible. The other thing that the carbon tax was actually brought in for to sustain more transportation or climate change, and that's not what's being done. Carbon tax is just being used as general revenue. So what the NDP has been committed and is committing is that to use carbon tax for transportation as well as for climate change, of course. But like everybody else, we need better transit between Abbotsford-Mission and beyond to Chilliwack and to Metro Vancouver and Surrey area. So of course we can do better, and that's what our goal is, to do better than before, not the same as always.
It's my privilege to serve as chair of the Abbotsford-Mission Transit Committee, and one thing I know for sure is transit is expensive. We're looking currently at upgrading our garage in Abbotsford, very expensive. It's highly subsidized, and so we need to be very careful and move very cautiously, because every time we add a bus, every time we add a new route, it's extremely expensive. So we have to do it incrementally. With regard to the West Coast Express, I'm very encouraged. I know Mission has a concern about the budget allocation. As your MLA, I'll be looking into that on behalf of Mission Council and taxpayers, because the allocation for the West Coast Express is going up more and more. This year, I believe it's coming up to $765,000, so that's problematic. Thank you.
I would be open into looking, possibly adding some more runs on the West Coast Express. And also our party doesn't believe that the cars are evil. If you look at the BC elections website, 87% of the people in this riding use their cars to get to and from work. That's why we want to get rid of the carbon tax. We pay the most expensive, we have the highest fuel prices in Canada, and we want to make it cheaper for families to get to and from work, and also to make their goods less expensive and make our businesses more competitive. We've also introduced a rebate. There's about 5,000 people in this riding that go over the Portman Bridge every day, mostly in Abbotsford, to get to work. And those people are paying $1,800 a year per person to get over that bridge. If you pay that $1,800, we will rebate you $408 at the end of the year. Thank you.
We have rebuttals. Wendy?
We have been studying transit for years, and I've been on some of the committees, and it's always down to affordability, especially in the rural areas. We put in a couple new hubs out by Chilliwack and Agassiz, Covington Mission, but the thing is, we should be maybe taking some of those oil subsidies and diverting them to transit, so we won't need as much gas and oil.
Marcus, did you have a rebuttal?
I did, but
Well, it's okay, you don't have to. Roman?
Yes, I sold my rebuttal cards for $100 to help pay for my self-financed campaign.
Direct and to the point. Any other rebuttals? Eric? And then Marcus?
I had a little concern that $1,800 a year, if somebody pays to go over that bridge. If you paid $1,800 a year in transportation just to go over the bridge, you've got a problem. You need to find a better way for transit to get to work. Let's try that. Let's go to the Express. The carbon tax is something the Green Party is very much in favor of. We would immediately boost it to $50 a ton and increase it by $10 a year until it did its job. It's not a discriminatory tax. Oh, I mean, stop that.
Yes. Ready to start?
I've got lots more to say.
Marcus?
Alright, first thing I'd like to point out here, the NDP did not bring in the West Coast Express. The West Coast Express was brought in by the Mission Mayor at the time, who was Randy Hawes. The NDP MLA of the area actually opposed it. Also, 50-cent increase in the carbon tax. Without an actual transit alternative to get from Mission to Abbotsford or Abbotsford to Chilliwack and etc.
Thank you, Marcus. Question number 8. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Roman.
The young fella isn't lying if he thinks he's telling the truth.
Thank you, Roman. Question number 8, we will be starting with Wendy. And the question is, what is you or your party's position on improving the Fraser River as a transportation corridor?
There's a lot of considerations, for instance, habitat for fish. What they've been doing in the last few years has not been great for the spawning areas. The head hydrologist on the subject, Michael Church, has said that it hasn't been effective as far as lowering the channel, which you would need to do as well for transportation. Basically what he says is it would need to, more effective for floods, for instance, would be diking, but for transportation you need to take it out of the middle of the channel more. So that's a whole different system. You need to use clamshell digger type operation to clear out the channel. Northwest Hydrology confirms stuff like that, as well as their reports.
Roman?
Yeah. I worked for the Canadian Pacific Railway for 38 years. I rode the West Coast Express for 12 years. I love the railroad. I'm in love with the trains. I don't like to fly. I'm in a hurry and I don't know why.
Eric?
I should defer to Wendy, nobody knows more with the subject than she does, her years of experience at it. But as I mentioned before, we are currently sending logs and gravel down the river. So it has some ability. I'm terrified of messing up the salmon spawning grounds, and we need to keep that just as a top priority, but there's got to be some way to do it eventually. It's a wonderful transportation channel, and we can do it. I'm game to figure out how to do it.
Thank you. Great question. And it is it will be done if the MPP, which most likely will form the government, it will be done with environmental considerations, it will be done with consultation, and of course, the spawning grounds, the spawning channel, it is, we have to look into that. So if the environmental consultation and if it all works out, then of course it should be used because it's one of the most efficient ways of transportations. But if it doesn't work, then we'll have to think of other things. Thank you.
Well, I think we all agree that Fraser River is a precious resource and we treasure it every time you drive over it. We're moved by it. It's an amazing river. There are problems, however, on both sides. The river is now changing course and starting to seriously destroy some of the banks, and some farmers on the Abbotsford side are expressing concern that has to be addressed. It's a huge fisheries river. There's I think 17 varieties of fish, including sturgeon, and all 5 actually varieties of salmon. So any restoration, any movement of gravel has to be done with care. One thing we're finding is that tourists going up now in tourism boats, because it's so shallow in many portions, that it's actually unsafe to go up. So yes, the river has to be addressed, but it has to be done in a very environmentally sensitive and caring manner. Thank you.
I work as a conservation officer right now in the province and have for 15 years. I've also worked as a federal fishery officer. I've done thousands of patrols on that river from the ocean all the way up to Boston Bar. From the ocean all the way up to Abbotsford, where the Sumas River comes into the Fraser, it's mud, sand. They can dredge there, you can get deeper salmon, sturgeon, need gravel to spawn. The gravel bars start at about where Chilliwack and Mission, where the Sumas River enters the river. I would put a moratorium on all gravel removal upstream of the Sumas River, the confluence of the Sumas of the Fraser. Those are sturgeon and salmon spawning habitat. Salmon and sturgeon are a national heritage, and I would look at getting more fishery biologists and local fishing game clubs involved in consultation. As far as the boating issue up there with people running around and stuff, anybody that knows anything about boating, it's not really a safety hazard up there. It's a fallacy.
And Margaret?
Using the Fraser River for transportation is great if it's done in a safe and efficient way. By the way, Simon, I wonder why boats are running up ground, considering we've been selling our water over to the States as per the Liberal plan for several years now.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. And this will start with Eric. The seniors advocate position was created by the provincial government in response to requests from seniors organizations to have a position advocating for seniors issues in British Columbia. The legislation precluded the ability of the advocate to deal with concerns by and from individual seniors and allowed only for advocacy of global issues pertaining to seniors. The position reports to the Minister of Health and not the Legislative Assembly. This is not in keeping with other positions such as the Children's Advocate and Ombudsman. The question is, could candidates outline their view of the legislative authority and reporting responsibility of the Seniors Advocate?
This question is highly applicable to me. I'm about to turn 60.
Sorry, Eric, we were starting with Roman. Oh, did I? My apologies. Oh, no, you are right. I was right the first time, I was wrong the second time.
Eric is always right.
Maybe I should repeat the question now.
He's already 60. The seniors advocate, there's no reason why we shouldn't be treating that exactly the same as we do with our other advocates. There's issues with having them report to a minister, I suspect. And then not allowing individuals, we all need to have access to some sort of redress. So I'm very keen for changing that way that we've got the seniors advocate in there.
Thank you. It's actually part of our platform, and we are saying that the seniors advocate will be addressing the seniors' concern, will be independent of the influence of the government. So yes, the senior advocate will be a separate body by itself.
Well, the seniors advocate is a brand new position. I believe it was just appointed last year, so I have to admire the government that started this. It's a brand new position, and I guess we're taking baby steps. You start off with the position as it is, and you add more responsibilities as you learn. The other thing is, if we're going to accept presentations from individuals, it'll dramatically increase the cost. So it may be better at the outset to do it corporately. It'd be probably a bit more efficient, and then as the position grows and responsibilities better understood, then it can be broadened. But it's an excellent position, and we should be very thankful for it.
Our seniors are very important, and they need I think the best care around, and I'm completely for making it a completely independent office, just like the Auditor General is. And I think that the seniors advocate should be able to hear individual complaints from individual seniors, just like if you have a complaint, you can go to the RCMP or the Abbotsford Police and make an individual complaint. You don't have to go there to be sponsored by your Ratepayers Association or anybody else. Thanks.
I see no reason that seniors application should be handled any different way than children's application. Yes, individual seniors should be able to bring up their issues, because if you go with general issues, you leave people out, and that's just not fair. That's not democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, with aging population, there's definitely a real need, and there should be a community liaison just so that it's easy to access, and it's people that you know in the community that are going to the provincial advocate. And there's a lot of things going on as well about home care for aging populations that will need a lot more to address. So definitely in favor.
I believe in open and honest government. I would bring in whistleblower protection to the extreme.
Our next question, do you support the corporate capital tax and why?